Under the moon, every story begins. This is Luna Stories, spicy stories, slow burn emotions, and beautiful moments. Let's begin.
Gabriella's knuckles whitened around her pen as she scribbled furious notes in the margins of her textbook. The dorm room smelled of burnt popcorn again, her roommate's latest culinary disaster. Across the hall, someone blasted 2000's pop punk at 2 a.m. quality volume. College was supposed to be this grand awakening, but so far it felt like an extended sleepover with strangers. The department email hit her inbox at 3:17 a.m. Professor Hartman was out indefinitely with pneumonia. Some new substitute would take over modern philosophy. Gabriella groaned. Last time they got a sub, it was that ancient guy who lectured about Kant like it was 1972. She slammed her laptop shut and face-planted into her pillow. The classroom buzzed when she walked in late on Thursday. Not the usual mid-lecture chatter, but something sharper, like the air before lightning strikes. Then she saw why. The woman writing on the board had ink-stained fingers and a black dress clinging to curves that made Gabriella's throat go dry. "Diana Mercer," the sub said without turning around, her voice scraping low like well-worn leather. "Hartman's notes are trash. We're starting over." Summary. Zni. Gabriella, disillusioned with college life, learns her philosophy professor is replaced by a substitute. Arriving late to class, she's stunned by Diana Mercer, the striking new teacher who immediately commands attention by scrapping the old lesson plans. Gabriella's notebook slipped from her hands. Diana turned then, and her eyes, dark as the coffee stains on Gabriella's sweatshirt, locked onto her with terrifying precision. A slow smirk curled at the corner of Diana's mouth, like she'd caught Gabriella at something, which was impossible. Unless she could smell the way Gabriella's pulse had just kicked into overdrive. The lecture that followed shouldn't have been erotic. Heidegger's Being and Time never exactly set campus on fire, but Diana paced the front of the room like she owned every square inch, her heels clicking against tile in a rhythm that made Gabriella's teeth ache. When Diana leaned over some freshman's desk to correct his notes, the neckline of her dress gaped just enough to reveal the shadow between her breasts. Gabriella bit her lip so hard she tasted copper. After class, Gabriella lingered under the pretense of adjusting her backpack straps. Diana was erasing the board, biceps flexing beneath the dress's thin straps. "You," Diana said suddenly, tossing the eraser aside, "have been staring at me for 53 minutes. The accusation hung between them, electric. Gabriella's mouth opened, no words came out, and Diana laughed, low and knowing. "Hartman's office hours are Mondays. Mine are never." The door clicked shut behind Diana, leaving Gabriella alone with the ghost of bergamot perfume and the dawning realization that she might fail this class spectacularly, for entirely non-academic reasons. Summary. During Diana's intense lecture, Gabriella becomes hyper-aware of the teacher's commanding presence and subtle physicality, culminating in Diana calling her out for staring. Their charged interaction ends with Diana implying she won't follow standard office hour protocols, leaving Gabriella flustered and preoccupied. By Tuesday, Gabriella had circled Diana's office building 6 times before working up the courage to knock. The door swung open to reveal Diana lounging in a chair, grading papers with a red pen tucked between her teeth. "Took you long enough," she muttered around the pen, flicking her eyes up. Gabriella's stomach dropped. Diana had known she'd come. Papers rustled as Diana gestured to the chair opposite her desk. "Sit." The command sent a shiver down Gabriella's spine. She obeyed, thighs pressing together under her skirt, as Diana leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "You want something," Diana murmured, tapping the pen against her bottom lip, "but you're not bold enough to say it." The air between them thickened, sticky with unsaid things. Gabriella's fingers dug into her knees. Diana's gaze flicked down, noting the tension, then back up, slow, deliberate. When she reached across the desk to pluck a stray thread from Gabriella's sleeve, her knuckles brushed bare skin. The contact burned. "Next time," Diana said, voice rough. "Use your words." The red pen clattered onto the desk. Gabriella watched Diana's tongue dart out to wet her lips, the motion hypnotic. She should leave. She should... Say it, Diana urged, leaning closer, close enough that Gabriella caught the scent of her shampoo beneath the bergamot. What do you want from me? Summary. Gabriella visits Diana's office, where the teacher immediately establishes control by predicting her arrival and challenging her hesitation. Their tense exchange escalates through charged physical proximity and Diana's demand for verbal confession, pushing Gabriella toward admitting her desires. The question punched through Gabriella's ribs. She exhaled, shaky, and Diana's eyes darkened. Then, boldness, or madness. Gabriella grabbed Diana's wrist. The pulse beneath her thumb jumped. Diana went very still. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then Diana twisted her wrist, catching Gabriella's hand in a grip that wasn't gentle. Finally, she breathed, and yanked Gabriella forward across the desk. Papers scattered. Gabriella gasped as Diana's mouth crashed into hers, hot, insistent, tasting of ink and something dangerously sweet. Diana's free hand tangled in Gabriella's hair, pulling just shy of pain. Gabriella melted into it, her own hands fumbling for purchase on Diana's waist, the fabric of her blouse crumpling under desperate fingers. When Diana bit down on her lower lip, Gabriella whimpered, the sound swallowed by Diana's growl. The chair screeched as Diana stood, dragging Gabriella up with her. She backed her against the bookshelf, ancient philosophy texts rattling. "You think about this during class?" Diana murmured against her throat, hands sliding under Gabriella's skirt. Gabriella nodded frantically, her breath hitching as Diana's fingers traced the lace edge of her underwear. Diana laughed, dark and satisfied. Good. Then her mouth was everywhere, neck, collarbone, the frantic pulse at Gabriella's wrist, until the world narrowed to the scrape of teeth and the shuddering press of bodies. Somewhere, a phone buzzed. Neither of them heard. Summary. Gabriella's bold move triggers Diana's aggressive response, leading to a passionate encounter across the desk that escalates to pressed bodies against bookshelves. Their frantic physicality, biting, gripping, whispered confessions, culminates in mutual surrender, oblivious to external interruptions. Summary. Sue. Gabriella, a disenchanted student, becomes obsessed with Diana, her striking new philosophy professor. Their charged classroom interaction leads to Gabriella seeking Diana's office hours, where the teacher's psychological and physical dominance escalates into passionate consummation amid academic surroundings. Gabriella arched into Diana's touch, her back pressing into the bookshelf hard enough to dislodge a volume of Nietzsche. It hit the floor with a thud that should have snapped the tension, but Diana only groaned against her skin, fingers slipping beneath lace to find her wet, wanting. "Christ," Diana hissed, "you're—" The knock at the door froze them both. "Professor Mercer?" A student's voice muffled through the wood. Diana's grip tightened, possessive, before she pulled away, leaving Gabriella panting against the shelves. Diana smoothed her blouse with trembling hands, her gaze never leaving Gabriella's swollen lips. "Later," she promised, low and wrecked, before turning toward the door. Gabriella barely had time to straighten her skirt before the door opened. The student blinked at the disheveled room, the scattered papers, the way Gabriella's hair looked like it had been thoroughly touched. Diana, already seated behind her desk, smiled like a predator. "Yes?" she purred, while Gabriella's knees nearly gave out. The moment the student left, after some mumbled question about essay deadlines, Diana's chair scraped back. Gabriella barely registered the click of the lock before Diana was on her again, shoving her against the doorframe, hands mapping her body like she needed to memorize every curve. "Your trouble," Diana breathed into her mouth, and Gabriella could only nod, clutching at Diana's shoulders as her legs threatened to buckle. Summary 1. An interruption by a student forces Diana and Gabriella to pause their encounter, though Diana's promise of later hangs heavily between them. After dismissing the student, Diana immediately re-engages with Gabriella, pinning her against the doorframe with renewed intensity while Gabriella struggles to maintain composure.